you? Serafina asked curiously. He's my hero. Gracia thought for a moment before continuing. When I was at my lowest, when everything seemed hopeless, Ethan risked his life to save me. Ever since then, he's been like a gift from the heavens, my perfect man. No matter if we're rich or poor, in sickness or health, I'll never leave his side. Gracia's face glowed with happiness as she spoke, her eyes reflecting her deep affection. Would you be willing to make a sacrifice for him? Serafina asked gently. If it's something he needs, I'd sacrifice anything, Gracia replied firmly, her expression resolute. Serafina felt reassured. Knowing how much interpersonal relationships meant to Ethan, she realized that if she could get Gracia's approval, it might make things easier with him. She wasn't trying to compete with Gracia. In fact, she admired her. Though they hadn't known each other long, Serafina found herself growing fond of Gracia's personality. She believed Gracia would understand once she learned the truth, given how much she cared for Ethan. If Ethan wasn't willing to make the first move, Serafina would take it upon herself to do so. She knew it would upset him now, but eventually, she believed he'd thank her. Men weren't meant to hold back forever. Gracia, you should be incredibly proud of Ethan. He's not just your hero, he's a hero for everyone. The fate of the universe rests on his shoulders, though most people don't even realize it. If anything happens to him, billions of lives will be in danger, Serafina explained. What do you mean? I don't understand, Gracia said, her confusion clear. Ethan had never shared anything like this with her. Serafina sighed. Let me explain. She began to tell Gracia about rancors, the prophecy, and the coming catastrophe. She told her that Ethan wasn't just an ordinary man, he was the one destined to save the world. Is this really true? Gracia asked in disbelief. I wouldn't lie about something like this, Serafina replied confidently. Gracia fell silent, stunned. She had never imagined Ethan was so powerful, or held such an important role. To her, he was simply a successful young man running his own business. She never cared about status or power. She loved Ethan for who he was. Still, hearing about his true identity made her feel proud. She had chosen an extraordinary man. But won't Ethan be upset if he finds out you told me this? Gracia asked. He won't be angry as long as you're here. Besides, he won't know I told you if we keep it between us, Serafina reassured her. Relieved, Serafina continued. She knew Ethan loved Gracia deeply and wouldn't want to hurt her. Gracia, in turn, loved Ethan enough to make any sacrifice if it would help him. That was exactly what Serafina needed to push her plan forward. Gracia, as an ordinary person, your body is too fragile compared to a rancor like Ethan. His strength is growing, and he's surpassing the physical limits of ordinary humans, Serafina said gently. Does that mean I can never have Ethan's children? Gracia asked, her voice trembling. Tears welled up in her eyes. The thought of not being able to have a family with Ethan was devastating. Don't cry, Gracia. There are other ways, Serafina said softly. What other ways? Gracia asked quickly, desperate for answers. Serafina leaned in, whispering something into Gracia's ear. By the time she finished speaking, Gracia's cheeks were flushed bright red. Miss Serafina, you're a rancor, aren't you? Gracia asked suddenly. Caught off guard, Serafina nodded. She knew Gracia would eventually connect the dots. Yes, I am. But Gracia, Serafina began to explain, only for Gracia to cut her off. There's no need to explain. I don't blame you for anything. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have known the sacrifices Ethan's been making for me. I'm not upset. I just feel guilty and grateful. Since you're a rancor, you can endure this, right? Gracia asked seriously. Serafina blushed at Gracia's straightforwardness. Yes, I can. As a rancor from the King family, I'm strong enough to handle it, she replied shyly. Would you be willing to be with us, Miss Serafina? Gracia asked, her tone sincere. I approached you initially with the intention of being with Ethan, Serafina admitted, her eyes reddening. But after getting to know you, I see why Ethan loves you so much. If you can forgive me, I'd like to remain friends. Gracia smiled warmly. I don't blame you at all. In fact, I'm thankful. Ethan means the world to me, and knowing what he's done makes me love him even more. If you want to stay friends, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Gracia, Serafina said, feeling relieved. She had wronged Gracia, but now she had her forgiveness. With Gracia's approval, there was no reason for Ethan to refuse her anymore. The two women continued talking, sharing secrets and laughter. Neither of them realized that Ethan had no idea what Serafina had told Gracia, nor did he know what had been agreed upon. If he did, his reaction would certainly be one for the books. Meanwhile, Ethan stood in front of the mirror after washing up, noticing some changes in his appearance. "I look more handsome and charming now," he mused. While he didn't have bulging muscles, the raw power within his lean body was enough to destroy entire worlds. Assessing his current strength, Ethan concluded that he had reached a level he called partial Super S rank. He had already surpassed S rank, and the next stage would be Super S rank. However, since Ethan had yet to achieve full Super S rank, he could only be considered at the partial level. To truly break through to Super S rank, he estimated that he would need to accumulate at least 100,000 luxury points, just like before. That would equate to around $10 trillion, but Ethan wasn't worried. He was already strong enough to sit atop the world, and no one dared question the source of his wealth or challenge his authority. No one had the strength to detain or test him anyway. By Ethan's calculations, even if the Grand Master of the Cross family were to awaken, he wouldn't pose a threat. At most, Bourne would be at partial Super S rank, the same level as Ethan. There was also the chance that the Grand Master's power would be lower due to the centuries of dormancy that drained his energy reserves. Even if the energy used during sleep was small, centuries of it would still amount to a significant depletion. One thing was clear: the Grand Master was not at Super S rank. If he were, taking over the three major forces would not have been so difficult. A mere tremor from a Super S rank master would have the world kneeling at his feet. For now, Ethan could spend his money freely. He knew that partial Super S rank wasn't enough to face the impending catastrophe, so he needed to keep spending to grow stronger. After washing up and having a quick breakfast, Ethan decided to call Kendall and ask her to expedite the development of East Legend Communications. He wanted global coverage, even in remote areas with strong magnetic fields. The project was massive and would require a lot of resources, but Ethan was confident it would also yield him enough luxury points to help him break through to Super S rank. Kendall, as always, didn't hesitate to execute Ethan's plan. In her mind, while the initial investment was high, the eventual returns would be monumental. East Legend Communications would monopolize the global telecommunications market, leaving no room for competition. Most importantly, this was a project that no one else could replicate. The technology was exclusive to East Legend capitals, and its success would make them the most powerful financial group in the world. Even without the benefits, Kendall would still follow through with Ethan's requests. After all, she had come to trust his decisions, especially after the Mosley family incident. In the ancestral home of the Cross family, Decathlon, Bourne was seated in a large wooden tub filled with bubbling water and various treasures of heaven and earth. He absorbed the medicinal properties from the water to replenish the energy he had lost during his centuries-long dormancy. His body, which had reached partial Super S rank long ago, was now capable of withstanding the potent effects of the medicinal bath. Bourne's appearance had changed drastically since his awakening. Once a shriveled figure resembling a mummy, his body had recovered considerably. He was still slim, but no longer emaciated. The energy within him was also terrifying. After absorbing the medicinal properties, Bourne slowly rose from the tub, hovering cross-legged in the air. He opened his eyes, exhaled, and flew to the side, where two young women approached to dry him off. As they prepared to help him dress, Bourne, who had refrained from physical indulgence due to his weakened state, could no longer resist. A while later, Bourne emerged fully dressed, meeting the core members of the Cross family, who had been waiting for him patiently. Despite the long wait, no one dared complain. After all, this was their Grandmaster, the man who had surpassed the peak of S rank centuries ago. Under his leadership, they believed the Cross family would rise to glory once more. Bieber, inform the other three forces that we will be heading to Zephyria in 3 days. I will reset the Earth's resources to prepare for the catastrophe. Those who follow me will rise in glory, but those who oppose me will perish. If Zephyria resists, they will be destroyed, Bourne commanded. Yes, Grandmaster. Congratulations on your recovery, Grandmaster. May the Cross family's glory illuminate the world once again, Bieber replied enthusiastically. Congratulations, Grandmaster. May the Cross family's glory brighten the world, echoed the corps members in unison. Unbeknownst to Ethan, Zephyria was on the brink of danger, but even if he knew, he wouldn't be nervous. Instead, he would feel exhilarated. Ever since reaching partial Super S rank, Ethan had been eager to meet the Grandmaster of the Cross family. That evening, Gracia lay exhausted in Ethan's arms, though she didn't fall asleep. She gazed at him until he asked, "What's wrong?" Gracia, who usually fell asleep quickly, hugged him tightly and murmured, "You're so good to me, Ethan." After learning more about Ethan from Serafina, Gracia now knew that he wasn't just the most powerful person in Zephyria, but someone destined to protect humanity. She didn't care about his identity, but the knowledge that her boyfriend was so successful filled her with pride. Still, Gracia couldn't help but feel insecure. She knew she was just an ordinary girl, and compared to someone like Serafina, she had no advantage. Though Ethan loved her, Gracia was pained by the fact that she couldn't bear him children. "Silly girl, I'm the one lucky enough to have you," Ethan said as he hugged her tightly. After a few minutes, when he thought Gracia had fallen asleep, he started to get up. But before he could move, she looked at him again. "What's wrong? Why aren't you sleeping tonight?" Ethan asked. "Ethan, does it hurt a lot?" she asked, her cheeks flushed. "Does what hurt?" Ethan replied, confused. "I read that when men don't finish, it hurts, and women can't get pregnant either." Ethan quickly realized that Serafina must have told her something. Gracia, innocent as she was, wouldn't have known such things on her own. His expression darkened. How dare she? Ethan thought. Still, he couldn't pick a fight with Serafina or the King family. They had been loyal supporters of Zephyria during its chaotic times, and as captain of the discipline team, Ethan couldn't let personal matters interfere with the greater good. "Silly girl, I'm happy with you. Don't worry about that, okay? Now, go to sleep," Ethan reassured her, gently patting her head. "Don't lie to me, Ethan. I know," Gracia replied softly. "Did Serafina tell you something? Don't listen to her too much," Ethan warned. "She's not bad. In fact, I've agreed to share you with her." Ethan froze, shocked by what he had just heard. Ethan and Gracia continued to hold each other tightly for several moments, before Ethan finally broke the silence. "Gracia, can we stop talking about this? I've got something crucial to handle in the coming days, and I can't afford to be distracted," Ethan said gently, yet firmly. "Is it about the looming catastrophe?" Gracia asked, her eyes filled with concern as she looked up at him. "Serafina told you about that too?" Ethan's voice hardened with frustration. What does she even want? He had deliberately kept information about rankers and the impending catastrophe from his loved ones. He didn't want them worrying about matters that he was perfectly capable of handling on his own. The last thing he needed was for them to be consumed by anxiety. But now, Serafina had gone ahead and revealed everything to Gracia. This left Ethan simmering with anger. The King family's princess was proving to be more trouble than she was worth. "She told me," Gracia confirmed softly, "that you're not just my hero, but the hero of all humanity and all life on Earth. I'm so proud of you, Ethan. You're mine." Hearing her words, Ethan felt the tension in his body ease. He was just a young man, only 22, and still in university. Knowing that the woman he loved looked up to him with such admiration made him feel a rush of warmth. His frustration over Serafina's revelation began to fade. "Gracia, since Serafina already told you, then you should understand that I don't have the mental space to think about kids right now. This catastrophe is like a sword hanging over our heads. I don't know when it will fall, but if I want to keep you safe, I have to stay focused and work harder." "Ethan, are we going to die when the catastrophe strikes?" Gracia's voice was small, filled with fear. "What are you talking about?" Ethan comforted her with a confident smile. "Don't worry, I'm here. I'll protect you. I'm already strong enough that even Serafina's powerful family needs my help to deal with the coming threat. But let me tell you something. No one knows just how powerful I really am. I've kept my full strength hidden." Gracia's face softened. "All right, with you here, I'm not afraid anymore. If worst comes to worst, we'll face it together. I was supposed to die years ago if it weren't for you. So just being with you now, for however long we have, makes me happy." Ethan tapped her forehead lightly. Stop saying stuff like that. We're not going to die. We're going to live a long, happy life together, with plenty of children. Now stop worrying and get some sleep. Gracia thought for a moment before nodding. Okay, we'll talk about it when you're ready. Just don't be too hard on Serafina. She's my best friend now, and I don't want to lose her. Ethan chuckled softly. All right, I won't punish her. Now go to sleep. You've got classes tomorrow. Ethan, do you want to, Gracia's cheeks flushed a deep red as she whispered shyly, her embarrassment obvious. It was the first time she had initiated, and Ethan couldn't help but notice how incredibly alluring she looked with her face and neck flushed with heat. His desire stirred, but he quickly suppressed it. Even though Gracia had made the offer, he knew her ordinary body wouldn't be able to endure it. He gently declined, thinking only of her well-being. Go to sleep, silly. Don't push yourself. You've got class tomorrow, and if you're too tired to wake up, everyone will tease you. We can take our time on the weekend. Gracia pouted, but relented. Okay. They both quickly fell asleep in each other's arms, unlike Serafina, who lay wide awake in the guest room, anxious. She was well aware that Ethan had likely figured out that she was the one who had spilled the secret to Gracia. Fear gnawed at her, because Ethan's power was not something anyone could defy, not even her family. The next morning, Ethan rose early to make breakfast for both women. He didn't wake Serafina directly, knowing she might be nervous around him. Instead, he gently roused Gracia and asked her to wake Serafina. Years ago, back when Ethan was still with his ex, Jane, he would bring her breakfast every morning, sometimes even running out late at night to get her food. But no matter how much he did for her, Jane would often dismiss his efforts, looking down on him. It was after their breakup that Ethan realized it didn't matter how much you gave. If a woman didn't love you, your efforts would be taken for granted. Jane had been that way, and no amount of sacrifice would have ever been enough. Now, Ethan had no doubt he had made the right choice in choosing Gracia. She was the one he should have been with from the start. He had once distanced himself from her, thinking he wasn't worthy. Now, he knew better, and he was determined to cherish her. He would give her his best and love her unconditionally. As Gracia and Serafina sleepily shuffled into the kitchen and sat down to eat breakfast, Serafina avoided Ethan's gaze, her nerves on edge. She knew Gracia must have already spoken to him about what she had revealed. And Ethan wasn't stupid. He had to know it was Serafina who had told Gracia in the first place. Fear and anxiety twisted inside Serafina. She knew that Ethan, with his overwhelming strength and position, could crush even the King family without breaking a sweat. She had made her move, but now there was no turning back. Still, Serafina clung to hope. She believed that Ethan, a man of his word, would keep his promise to help her family, and deep down, she had her own plans. She knew Ethan needed heirs, and she was betting that Gracia, as much as she loved him, wouldn't be able to give him the family he needed. In her mind, this was a calculated risk. Ethan might be loyal to Gracia now, but Serafina believed that eventually he would need more. Families like hers needed many legitimate children to secure their legacy, and she was willing to gamble that one day she could be part of that legacy. The three of them sat down together for breakfast. While Ethan and Gracia enjoyed a pleasant conversation over their meal, Serafina remained silent, only speaking when Gracia directed a question her way. Serafina wasn't sure where Ethan stood with her after last night's revelations, and so she acted with extreme caution, afraid to upset the powerful S-rank warrior before her. Unbeknownst to her, Ethan had already surpassed the peak of S-rank, reaching a higher plane of power. If she had known this, her nerves would have been even more frayed. While only a partial step lay between the peak S-rank and his current level, the difference in their strength was like night and day. Ethan noticed Serafina's change in behavior, but he chose to ignore it, not initiating any conversation with her. In truth, he had plans to confront her at some point. He wanted to make it clear that just because she was beautiful didn't mean she could do whatever she wanted, especially when it came to him. Ethan wasn't the type to be swayed by a pretty face. "Thank you for the breakfast, Ethan. It was delicious," Gracia said, setting her utensils down. "We're going to head to school now. See you later tonight." Serafina, who had been tense throughout the meal, had been looking for a chance to leave for a while now. Ethan's presence made her incredibly uneasy, even though he wasn't outwardly targeting her. His sheer aura was enough to send shivers down her spine. After a moment's thought, Ethan replied, "How about I drop you both off at school? I've got some free time these next couple of days, and I might as well take you." Gracia lit up instantly. "Really? That would be great. Let's go." The idea of spending more time with Ethan thrilled Gracia, and soon they were all on their way. Ethan drove the two ladies to the university, but as they approached the entrance, something strange caught his eye. The entrance to the campus was teeming with students, hundreds, perhaps even 1,000. Most were young men, and they were all eagerly waiting for something, excitement evident in their expressions. Ethan couldn't help but wonder what was happening. Was some famous personality visiting the campus today? It didn't look like a welcoming party for a big shot, though. Ethan had been to Greenwood University many times and had even studied there briefly, but he had never seen anything like this before. Since cars weren't allowed inside the university, Ethan parked at the entrance and stepped out to accompany Gracia and Serafina the rest of the way. As soon as they emerged, the crowd erupted into a frenzy. There they are! It's them! Greenwood University's sweet and innocent goddess, Gracia Young, and the ethereal new transfer, Serafina King. Serafina hasn't even been here for long, and she's already become the campus beauty queen. I've never seen anyone as stunning as her in real life. Wow, she's like a modern-day Helen of Troy. A voice chimed in. Yeah, but what's the point of admiring her? You think she'll look your way? She's way out of your league, man. More comments echoed through the crowd, all of them centered on Gracia and Serafina. Ethan's sharp senses picked up on every word being said, and he quickly pieced together what was happening. The students were there for Serafina. It seemed like she had made quite an impression since transferring to Greenwood. To Ethan, though, she was just another attractive woman. If Serafina scored 100 on his scale, Gracia was a solid 97. However, Gracia's warm personality made her far more valuable to Ethan. Greenwood University was one of the most prestigious academies in the world, and Ethan had expected students here to be more focused on their studies than ogling attractive women. Yet, here they were, crowded at the entrance just to catch a glimpse of Serafina. He remembered similar scenes from Crestfall University, where students would flock to see popular celebrities whenever they came to town. Ethan had planned to escort the two ladies all the way to the entrance, but after seeing the crowd, he decided against it. If he walked them all the way to the doors, the jealousy radiating from those hundreds of male eyes might be overwhelming. I'll leave you two here, Gracia. You can handle the rest on your own. I don't think I can handle the death glares from your classmates, Ethan said with a smirk. All right, Gracia said with a giggle. Drive safe. I will. I'll pick you up later today. Okay, see you later. Gracia waved, and with a smile, she linked arms with Serafina. The two walked through the gates of Greenwood University, unfazed by the gawking students. They had grown used to this kind of attention, especially Serafina, who had become the new campus sensation. Gracia had been at Greenwood for years, so she wasn't new to the students here. Serafina, on the other hand, had only recently transferred, and was causing quite the stir with her flawless looks. Her presence on campus had triggered a celebrity-like effect, and every group chat and forum was buzzing about her. Male students flocked to the gates each morning just for a chance to see the new goddess of Greenwood University, creating quite the spectacle. As Gracia and Serafina walked through the gates, the stares and whispers didn't stop. Serafina, though slightly uncomfortable, kept her composure. She had expected this ever since her transfer. The attention was overwhelming, but she had learned to deal with it, though it still felt like a burden at times. Gracia, on the other hand, had long since grown accustomed to the constant eyes on her. Being one of the most popular students at Greenwood University for the past 4 years, had trained her to handle these situations effortlessly. She squeezed Serafina's arm lightly, giving her a reassuring smile. Ethan watched the two women walk through the gates of the university before starting his car and preparing to leave. However, just as he turned on the engine, a group of Greenwood University students blocked his path. One of them approached Ethan's left side and knocked on his window. Ethan sighed, already feeling annoyed. It seemed like these people were here because they had seen him drop off Gracia and Serafina. He had a gut feeling something like this might happen, which was why he didn't escort them all the way onto the campus. Still, they managed to catch him. In hindsight, Ethan thought, if he had known this was going to happen, he would have stayed in the car the whole time. His identity and status had changed drastically. He didn't want to waste his energy dealing with unnecessary trouble. None of these students were important enough to warrant any explanation from him, and he had no interest in causing a scene. Yet, their arrogant behavior was starting to irritate him. Since they were persistent, Ethan decided to humor them. He rolled down his window and addressed the student standing outside. "What can I help you with?" Ethan asked, his voice calm but clearly uninterested. The student looked at him with a haughty expression. "You? What's your relationship with our two goddesses, punk? Why did they come to school in your car?" Ethan glanced at the student, sizing him up. He wasn't unattractive. He had a buzz cut, wore earrings, and was dressed in expensive, branded clothes. From the looks of it, he was probably some rich kid who had never faced any real hardship. Ethan couldn't understand how someone like this managed to get into Greenwood University, supposedly the world's most prestigious institution for brilliant minds. He figured the student must have come from a powerful family, much like Serafina, who had connections through the King family. "I'm talking to you! Are you deaf or something?" the student snapped, growing irritated by Ethan's lack of response. Ethan frowned. If the guy had spoken politely, he might have answered his question, but now, the student's attitude was only making Ethan want to deal with him harshly. "What's it to you?" Ethan replied coldly. "Even a dog knows better than to stand in someone's way. Move before you make me angry." The student's face turned red with rage. "Do you even know who I am? You've got some nerve acting all tough just because you drive a Benz G-Class. You think that makes you special? My nannies drive G-Wagons. Answer my question, or you won't be leaving here in one piece." Ethan couldn't help but laugh internally at the student's bravado. This guy clearly had no idea who he was dealing with. Despite holding the high rank of partial S rank and being a member of Zephyria's parliament, Ethan never considered Greenwood University his territory. Yet here was this spoiled kid acting as if he ruled the place. Deciding to have some fun, Ethan leaned forward slightly and said with a smirk, "Oh, didn't you know? They're both my girlfriends, and we're living together. Ever tried that before? Let me tell you, it's amazing." With that, he slammed his foot on the gas pedal. The car shot forward, causing the students blocking the road to jump back in surprise. The rich kid's smug expression twisted into one of anger as he watched Ethan drive off. "You'll regret this! Just wait and see!" The student, now furious, yelled after the car. His lackeys gathered around him nervously. "What should we do now, Mr. Mon?" one of them asked, clearly frightened. Mon, the student who had confronted Ethan, slapped his lackey across the face. "You idiots! You let him drive off without stopping him. He wouldn't have dared to hit you if you stood your ground." Mon raged. The lackeys cowered, heads down, not daring to say another word. After venting his anger, Mon began walking back toward Greenwood University, only to notice that a crowd had gathered, watching the whole incident unfold. Seeing them made him even angrier. "What are you looking at?" "Keep staring, and I'll gouge your eyes out," he shouted, his face twisted with fury. "Serafina is mine. If any of you so much as think about her, I'll feed you to the dogs." No one in the crowd dared to argue. They all knew Mon's family had influence, and no one wanted to cross him. Feeling satisfied with their silence, Mon stormed off, still fuming over Ethan's words. He couldn't believe that Serafina and Gracia were living with that random guy. The thought of someone else touching his goddess drove him mad with jealousy, but he didn't fully believe Ethan's claim. To Mon, Ethan was just another spoiled rich kid flaunting his father's money by driving a flashy car. He was no real competition. Still, Mon decided he would need to confirm the truth for himself. Later that day, when it was time for lunch, Gracia and Serafina left the campus, ignoring the leering gazes of their male classmates. Ethan was already waiting for them by the gates, and the two women quickly got into the car. Unbeknownst to them, a black car had been following Ethan's vehicle ever since he picked them up. It tailed them discreetly all the way to Gracia's villa and only drove off once it was certain that Ethan, Gracia, and Serafina were inside. Ethan noticed the car, but he wasn't particularly worried. He figured it was probably Mon's lackeys trying to gather information. Whoever was behind it, they weren't a threat. Serafina was an A-rank master, and Ethan himself was far beyond that level. They could handle anything that came their way. Meanwhile, in a luxurious villa elsewhere in Manila City, Mon, who had clashed with Ethan earlier, was relaxing with a woman in a revealing outfit when his phone rang. "Mr. Mon, we followed them to South Mountain Villa Garden. They all went inside together, and no one came out until after dark," a voice reported from the other end of the line. Upon hearing this, Mon hurled his phone to the ground in a fit of rage. The woman beside him fell to her knees in terror. Mon was livid. He hadn't believed Ethan earlier, but now it seemed that what he had said was true. The thought that Ethan had already claimed Serafina made Mon's blood boil with jealousy. His vision swam with anger, and he clenched his fists until his knuckles turned white. But Mon wasn't ready to give up. Even if Ethan had gotten to Serafina first, she would still be his in the end. And as for Ethan, Mon would make sure he disappeared from the face of the earth. The next day, Ethan Drake once again dropped off the two women at Greenwood University's entrance. This time, he stayed in the car, watching Gracia and Serafina walk into campus before driving away. As he approached the villa area on a secluded road, a dump truck suddenly blocked his path. Behind him, two corporate sedans followed closely. More than a dozen men exited the vehicles, each wielding a metal pipe. Ethan chuckled to himself. Not wanting to waste his time, he pressed hard on the accelerator and sped forward. The men were caught off guard, scrambling to move out of the way. Ethan's G-Wagon collided with the dump truck, pushing it aside as he drove through the barricade. The group of men stood frozen in disbelief. How could a G-Wagon push a dump truck? They wondered. In reality, Ethan had used his mind power to force the truck aside, creating the illusion that the car alone had done it. Once back at the villa, Ethan was about to make a call to investigate the group when his phone rang. It was Gracia, her voice trembling with urgency. "Ethan, something bad happened. Come to the school quickly. Serafina beat someone up." "What happened? Tell me slowly." "Some trust fund kid named Mon started hitting on her, saying all sorts of disgusting things. Miss Serafina lost her temper and beat him up pretty badly." Ethan sighed. "As long as he's still alive, there's nothing to worry about. Serafina can handle it." "Are you sure? He looks crippled, and Mon's family is influential. Will Serafina be taken away?" "She won't. Serafina's family is far more powerful than his. Relax." After reassuring Gracia, Ethan ended the call. He was confident the King family would manage the situation. In the meantime, Serafina continued attending her classes as if nothing had happened. Her classmates, however, were terrified. Mon, a notorious troublemaker from a powerful family, was now likely crippled, and yet Serafina seemed completely unbothered by the consequences. At Manila City's prestigious Asian hospital, Mon lay unconscious in the intensive care unit, while his mother sobbed beside him. A group of doctors stood nearby, ready to examine him. "Please, stand aside, madam," Tyler Mander, Mon's father, said, his voice firm as he motioned to the doctors. The doctors' expressions grew grave as they completed their assessment. Mon's condition was far worse than they had anticipated. Despite his grievous injuries, it was a miracle he was still alive. "How's my son?" Tyler asked. "Mr. Mander," a white-haired doctor said, "your son's injuries are severe. He's likely to remain bedridden for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, he also won't be able to produce heirs." "Oh." Upon hearing this, Mon's mother wailed in anguish, collapsing beside her son. "Money, my poor boy, why is your life filled with such tragedy?" Tyler's face darkened. He turned to the Chancellor of Greenwood University, Mr. Castro, who was also present. "You heard the doctors, Mr. Castro. The Mander family will not let this go unpunished." "Mr. Mander, I advise caution," Mr. Castro said carefully. "The other party involved is not an ordinary person. Additionally, your son did instigate the situation. Perhaps we should consider a reconciliation? You're suggesting my son deserved to be crippled? Of course not, sir. I only mean that your son is well known for causing trouble. It might be wise to understand the full situation before taking action. Tyler slammed his fist against the wall. My son is crippled. I don't care who did it. They'll pay dearly for this. A deep voice echoed through the room. Who are you planning to punish? Everyone turned to see a middle-aged man stride into the room. Tyler's face paled, his anger evaporating the moment he recognized the man. Cabinet Minister Stefani, Tyler greeted, bowing respectfully. The others in the room followed suit, greeting the man with equal deference. The woman stopped crying immediately, recognizing the authority before her. The man was none other than Welson Stephanie, a high-ranking official in Manila City, and a man of tremendous power. As the grandson of Zephyria's famed statesman Elon, Welson was a force no one could afford to cross. Tyler, Welson began, do you even know who your son tried to harass? Forget about retribution. The Mander family is in danger of being destroyed. You'd do well to make amends. I'll have my secretary send you the address of the other party. Apologize in person and beg for forgiveness, otherwise nothing can save you. With that, Welson turned and left the room, leaving Tyler stunned. Tyler's heart sank. There were only a handful of forces that could warrant such a reaction from Welson Stefani, and all of them could wipe out the Mander family with ease. He glared at his unconscious son, cursing the boy for bringing so much trouble. Turning to his wife, he shouted, It's your fault he's so spoiled. All you do is cause problems. Get out. His wife, too frightened to argue, silently left the room. Later that afternoon, Ethan picked up Gracia and Serafina from campus. Neither of them mentioned Amon, and Ethan didn't bring it up either. He knew the King family would handle the matter swiftly and discreetly. After all, they didn't become Zephyria's most powerful hidden aristocratic family for nothing. The following day, Ethan Drake received a call from Julie after dropping the two ladies off at school. She had already prepared an official announcement informing the general public about the existence of rankers. Although the situation in Zephyria had calmed, rumors spread by the Dominic family and the Star Alliance across various regions made the ordinary population more curious about the rankers. In this context, hiding the existence of rankers any longer would only cause more issues. Ethan had previously discussed with Elon the possibility of publicly disclosing the existence of rankers through Zephyria's government. They had also considered incorporating rankers into the education system to satisfy the public's curiosity and discover new talents. However, this idea was not without its complications. As time passed, more and more rankers would emerge from Zephyria, given its population of billions. Every year, countless children were born, and even if only a small fraction possessed the talent to become rankers, that number would still be significant over the years. This posed a substantial challenge for the administration of Zephyria. One wrong move could lead to internal conflicts or even civil wars. The proposal had both advantages and risks. Zephyria could either grow into a superpower or collapse into chaos. This was the primary reason Elon had opted to remain silent about rankers for so long. As long as Elon was alive, he could maintain order. However, he knew that after his death, Zephyria would likely descend into disarray. The resurgence of hidden aristocratic families and various sects made this inevitable. Without Elon, Zephyria would lack someone capable of controlling the situation. Internal power struggles would arise, and the country could be torn apart even without external intervention. No one wanted to see Zephyria fall into such turmoil. However, the situation had evolved to a point where hiding the existence of rankers was no longer feasible. Not only was it impossible to conceal them any longer, but Ethan also would not allow Zephyria to collapse into chaos. With this in mind, Elon agreed to Ethan's suggestion to release an official statement under the government's name. Soon, everyone in Zephyria would be aware of the existence of rankers, and many parents would dream of their children becoming powerful rankers. Ethan drove to meet Julie, who handed him a draft of the notice she had prepared. This is the announcement I've written. Take a look and let me know if it needs any adjustments, Julie said. Ethan read through the draft. While it was generally good, a few areas could be phrased better to clearly convey their intentions. After discussing his suggestions with Julie, an official notice regarding rankers was sent across the nation. The first recipients were provincial cabinet ministers, who then passed the information down the ranks to reach county-level cities and villages. Simultaneously, the national news network was scheduled to air a special segment explaining the role of rankers that evening. Later that evening, as Ethan casually chatted with Gracia and Serafina in the living room, he checked the time. Realizing the news was about to begin, he turned on the television. Every channel in Zephyria was broadcasting a live special of the Zephyria Evening News. Ethan selected a random channel, and the voice of the host filled the room. Good evening, and welcome to Zephyria Evening News. Tonight's topic is rankers. What is a ranker? How do they differ from ordinary people? How can one become a ranker? I'm sure you're just as curious as I am, so let's explore these questions. Both Gracia's and Serafina's attention was immediately captured by the broadcast. They hadn't expected the government to openly discuss rankers. The two women exchanged confused glances before looking toward Ethan, who simply gestured for them to keep watching. The host then introduced a clip showing real-life combat between rankers. The footage showed individuals smashing boulders with their bare hands, defying gravity, and performing incredible moves with various weapons. Every action was breathtaking, and even watching the rankers' footwork and techniques left viewers awestruck. Once the clip ended, the host resumed speaking. The scenes you just watched have not been altered or enhanced in any way. The people you saw are real, and are what we refer to as rankers. Rankers are a mysterious group of individuals who have coexisted with us for a long time. Their origins date back centuries. They've remained hidden to avoid disturbing the lives of ordinary citizens, choosing not to flaunt their extraordinary abilities. Despite staying in the shadows, their contributions to Zephyria cannot be overstated. The broadcast then played another clip, this time showing Zephyrian rankers fighting on the front lines, defending the nation's borders from invaders. Some rankers died in the process, sacrificing their lives for the greater good. It was a moving scene, stirring deep emotions in those watching. Many Zephyrians shed tears as they witnessed the bravery of these warriors. After the clip, the host continued, his voice thick with emotion. With great power comes great responsibility. Many of us enjoy peaceful lives today thanks to the sacrifices of these unsung heroes. Once someone becomes a ranker, they transition. Ethan looked at the people below. He saw their frightened looks and told himself that the elves' matter should end here. No force would dare to provoke the elves anymore. He would be free from worries now too. Suddenly, a burst of noise broke the silence. Hope of our metaverse. Just trust him. I always think that the kid has some trump card, Anu replied. Suddenly, a voice said, Thank you for trusting me, Anu. Everyone looked at the source of the voice with shocked expressions. Ethan had appeared among them at some point. Ethan, what is